I want to talk about the effect of fathers, specifically as it relates to children having a mother wound. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. I had done a previous post where I had addressed a gentleman who said that Black women are terrible people, and he felt that way because his mother was a terrible person and the women in his family were terrible people, and he had observed other Black men with terrible mothers, and his wife had a terrible Black mom. So I wanted to address this commenter here. She says, could this also stem from his father letting him down by not giving him the tools to be a man in our modern day society? And absolutely, what I have observed in my years of counseling when, people have mother wounds, men and women have mother wounds, although we're specifically addressing a man here, is also the role that the father plays or doesn't play in helping the child resolve their mother wound. Now, if the father is an absentee father, he usually gets the glory. In what I found, not always, but a lot of times he's usually the glory because children will fantasize about the person that who their father was or could have been, or the types of relationship that they could have had with their father if he had been. So there's a lot of this romantic longing, and not romantic in the sexual sense, but almost like, just sort of this like imaginary, wonderful being that's sort of gassed up in the mind. Um, Longing, whereas the mother who stays um, gets all the critical acclaim, just gets all the criticism, excuse me. Um, and if she be deemed a terrible mom, she could be deemed a mom who made a mistake. She could be deemed as an emotionally absent mother. So all of the criticism is for the person who stayed and did the child care, whether it was good or not, all of this kind of stuff. It is reserved for the mom who stayed. That is one thing that happens. In the cases, and the children may long to want to escape from their mom and go run off to this imaginary father who they hope or they've sort of made up in their mind is going to be better than what they have to deal with at home. But mothers have to deal with the stress of being a single mom, managing all the child care, and earning a living to support the child, all this other kind of stuff. So there's a lot of different nuances that go on with that. In the case that you maybe had a father who was there but left, so you know who your father is, but he's gone, he's either remarried or they've divorced or whatever. What I have found is that the way that this father dynamic can impact the relationship that a child has with their mother is by the way that the father A treats the mother and talks about the mother to their children, and C has a relationship with women in general. If children grow up and their father is mistreating their mother, is a philanderer, there's all this sort of abuse that goes on. They internalize that as the appropriate, normal way that men should interact with women. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that your parents are your role models, and whoever you identify with the most is usually who you are going to become most like. And so there is that. But, too, there's, when parents divorce or separate, relationships can become highly contentious. And, parents could talk about each other, talk about the other parent to their children and things like that. And so the father could say, well, your mama ain't this, your mama ain't that, your mama did this to me, and sort of play up the victim role, or play up the role that your mom is a big bad wolf that can't be trusted to the children, and encourage children to lash out and mistreat their mothers. I see this all the time in family court, where you have parents that are, using the children as a pawn to retaliate against each other. Then if the father remarries or has another girlfriend or things like that, they may try to force this woman on the children, force them to be a family and forget about mom, or make this woman your mother, and internalize this as being or your family, as opposed to respecting the family that you have. So a lot of the rearing can be shaped by the narratives of the parents, right? And also just the narrative of the parent about the other parent, but also too how to interact with women and or men, right? How to interact, how to respect, how to view that, and a lot, some of it can be pathological, some of it can be good, but a lot of that is taught by telling your child the messaging as well. And if you don't teach your child the messaging, your child is just going to grasp from what they see and internalize the messaging. But also, it's also in how the father shows up and treats the children, during this whole process. The whole thought of being a man can also be shown by how the father actually shows up for their children, how active they are in their child's life, how active they are in school and extracurricular activities and whatever else the child has going on as well. But also having a conversation about real life, that this is what things look like between men and women, and this is how you really need to show up for the mother of your children, or the women in your life. Don't disrespect them, and I'm not going to disrespect them. So I'm going to be a role model, and I'm not going to disrespect your mother in front of you. Or if your mother has flaws, or if she can't care for you, I'm going to step up and be a parent for you, but I'm not going to disrespect you or her. And so a good example of this would be Love and Hip Hop, old Love and Hip Hop. I forget which franchise. I want to say it was Atlanta or Hollywood. Might have been Hollywood, actually. And there was a couple on there, or a former couple, Fizz and Moniece. And Fizz had custody of his son on that show, and Moniece had some challenges. I think she had struggled with having stable housing, from what I recall, mental health and other stuff. She had some challenges, and so she would visit her son at his father's house. But one of the drawbacks of Fizz, that I saw just from watching that show, and this has been many years ago, every opportunity he got, he would never take up for Moniece, or he would be openly disrespectful to her in front of, the other women. That kind of stuff translates to your children. And even if his child wasn't in the room, it's now on TV, so people can watch that for forever. And I don't know all of their relationship dynamics. I just know that what I saw on television, where she would get humiliated time and again, and he would encourage that from the women that he was with. So how do you encourage that? What messages are you sending to your child? How are you teaching them how to solve problems with women? What messages are you teaching them about how to talk to and problem solve with the women in your life? Also, are you showing them how to build, protect, and provide for family? Or are you just a grown man sitting around laying up and you want a woman to cook for you and pay the bills and do all the things? So the father is very important in the messages and the messaging that children receive. And there's so much more to talk about in this conversation than what I can do in a 10-minute video, but we can certainly get the ball rolling here. Thanks so much for asking this and putting that out there.